Well, shalom everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. We're up to page 183 of volume 2 of Rabbi Avigdor Miller's new translation and commentary of the Mesillat, Yesharim, the Path of the Just. And I'll just remind you, we're in the chapter which is entitled The Details of the Quality of Nikiyut, that is purity or holiness. And in our last video, we looked at some of the things to avoid in the periphery matters of sexual immorality, such as touching and kissing. Maybe you find yourself in a social environment where you have to hug and kiss somebody. And so we've got to learn to even refrain from doing that if we can, particularly if you are on a course for full conversion as an Orthodox Jew. Being a Nazirite, it's probably not as strict, but it's still very good to be aware, because whether you decide to go down one path or the other, you still have the same Yetzer Hara. You still have the same evil inclinations. So it's very good to be aware of all these things and begin to practice and incorporate right behavior. So you have to be very careful how you speak to people, particularly if you find yourself alone with somebody. Hopefully you're not sort of alone with them in a room, but somebody of the opposite sex, if you're having some sort of interaction with them, speaking with them, you have to be very careful not to touch them or speak in a way that opens any doors that might go down a dark path. This sometimes can be very difficult to do, because before you know it, you'll be enjoying the conversation, and then you have to ask yourself, am I enjoying the conversation for the sake of Torah or for the sake of something else? And so now we're going to be looking at part 13 of chapter 11, which is entitled the model of the Nazir. And the Nazir, as I discussed, is somebody who takes a Nazirite vow. And so in the Torah itself, there's quite a lot of information on somebody who chooses to take a Nazirite vow. There's a lot of details that are mentioned, and they're mentioned for the purpose not just of somebody who takes a Nazirite vow, but these can be applied to a host of other areas that we want to gain mastery over. So let's have a look at it. As I've discussed before in the other videos, we have the actual commentaries by Rabbi Avigdor Miller intersecting in the actual text of the Mesillat Yesharim by Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. And so we've got a contemporary Jewish sage, in effect, giving us explanations of a work that was written a very long time ago. So Rabbi Avigdor Miller opens with, a Nazir takes a vow not to drink wine, but the Torah adds additional offenses to keep him away from wine by forbidding even the grapes. The author demonstrates from this midrash that the example of a Nazir is actually a model of the entire Torah. Just as we see that the Torah itself imposes additional barriers to prevent a Nazir from drinking wine, we therefore understand that in every other area, the Torah expects us to add to our own accord, additional barriers in order not to transgress the Torah. So this is extremely interesting. And this, if you can begin to learn this stuff, you can begin to incorporate it, and you can avoid situations and cut them off the head before they go down a path of no return. The Mesillat Yesharim says, look how wonderful are the words of this statement, that the prohibition of immorality is compared to the Nazir, where although the original prohibition is only not to drink wine, the Torah forbade to him anything that had any connection with wine, even grapes or dried grapes. So a grape, you can eat as many grapes as you like, you're not going to get drunk. But the grapes are a key ingredient in wine. They're crushed and they're left to ferment, and then they eventually over time become an alcoholic substance that can alter your perception. It can, make you a little bit more kind of easygoing and more open. The whole idea of wine is that when one ingests wine, that secrets come out. And so in the Torah world, that's meant to be a good thing, but it can be used for evil if one drinks wine to excess and for their own desires rather than the desire of the Torah. And we've also had the mention here of barriers or putting fences up, which is something that the Messianic world looks quite negatively on, people putting fences around the Torah. Just in a nutshell, the whole concept of a fence around the Torah is simply the concept of agreeing to meet a friend somewhere at 9:30 p.m. and making a special arrangement with yourself to arrive at the place of meeting the friend at 9 p.m. rather than 9:30 p.m. in case there is traffic. And so the idea is by putting up some type of scaffolding to enable you to make sure that you are there on time if there's some other extraneous circumstance or situation that causes you to not be able to do the particular thing or task that you've set out to do. So that's really the reality of the whole idea of a barrier or a fence. It's giving you room for mistakes and to still be found within the protective barrier of the Torah itself. It's not a bad thing, it's not a negative thing, it's an absolutely positive thing. I'll give you a quick example. There was a story of a frum Jewish family who had a young boy, and a couple of blocks away there was a new unkosher restaurant that was being opened up, and the father took his young son aside and said to him, "I don't want to ever see you going into that establishment." And the boy said, "Yes, father, I will do what you've asked." And then on another occasion, the mother tells the boy, "I don't want to see you within a block of that place. I don't want to see you even within one block of that establishment." And the boy says to his mother, "Yes, mother, I will do what you've asked." Now, if you look at what both of the requirements of both parents are for avoiding that place, is the father simply says, "Don't go in there and eat the food." The mother's saying, "I don't want you to go anywhere near there. Even I want you to keep a block away from the establishment." And so the mother is actually, her advice is greater than the father's advice, because she knows that the beautiful smelling aroma of the delicacies of the restaurant may cause the son to be enticed to actually go and maybe get something takeaway or something like that. So the mother's advice is way more effective and practical and reliable advice than the father's by simply saying not going in there at all. He might just say, "Well, I'll just walk past it every day and smell the beautiful aromas." After a period of time, the person will probably buckle and go in. And this is really, the mother's advice is really something that is analogous to rabbinic law and rabbinic teachings. They're there to help you and cause you to avoid a difficult situation. Rather than just get the headlines of what a person isn't meant to do, there is extra advice to tell you, to enable you to actually find yourself wrapped up in that sin or going down that path. So it's very, very good wisdom. And anybody who is serious about the Torah is just as serious, if not more so, than the rabbinic insights that are everywhere. You can access anything and everything now with technology, and you can get stuff mailed to your door. Okay, so let's continue. This is a lesson that the Torah gave to the sages, how they themselves should also make a fence around the Torah, though the safeguard that was put in their power to make through the safeguard that was put in their power to make for the Torah's protection. So the rabbis, in effect, are the master builders of the Torah. You might have heard that expression before. And one of their jobs was to enable people to not only encourage them and enable them to be able to become Torah observant, but to safeguard them in their Torah observance and give people the tools and the ability to implement their own safeguards. And so you, in effect, put up guards in front of your eyes. You appoint a police force and a precinct, and anything and everything that a normal police force has, speaking metaphorically, of course, and you array them in front of your eyes. You appoint a police force in front of your ears, even in front of your nostrils, because even a seductive smell or aroma can cause a person to sin. And of course, you put up a police force, you set up a whole police force over the barrier of your mouth, and so you check anything new that comes your way. What you do is you go, is this going to be something that the police force that I have set up over that sense, is that something that's going to, if I let it go through, is that going to cause me issues? And then you already have this barrier there, it's going to make a lot less problems come up in your life. So it's very important that we appoint our own guards over our senses. The sages are empowered by the Torah to add these fences, and not only could they make a fence around the Torah by adding a takanah, but they could even make a fence around the takanah, a fence around a fence. So you might have, it's like putting up a checkpoint. So the police will put a checkpoint up on the road, and anybody wanting to come in, they'll pull them over and they'll look at their credentials, ask them where they're going, what their intentions are. And then, okay, it looks good, but we're not 100%, but we can't really cause them to be stopped here. We'll let them go through. And then you have another checkpoint. So you have a takana, and then another takana, another fence, and then another fence. And then you filter in whatever potentially comes into any one of these senses that you have. It's excellent advice. And so this is what we've got to understand about the notion of putting a fence around the Torah. Yeshua himself, his Torah was quite strict. He would expect people to go above and beyond. And this type of concept is absolutely in line with Orthodox Rabbinic Judaism. The whole concept of going the extra mile. The Torah may not specifically say you can do something or can't do something, but if you find that you can still do something with the actual privilege of the Torah, you don't want to be putting yourself in a situation where you are becoming a reprobate with the permission of the Torah, as they say. So you want to be very careful. You make up all these sort of little kind of games, and the Heavenly Father and the Divine Council, the Beit Din and Shemayim, the Heavenly Court, they know all the little games, the little subtle games we play to enable us to look like we're still obeying Torah, but we're actually trying to fulfill our earthly desires as well. Unlawfully. Nothing wrong with having a desire fulfilled as long as it's in accordance with the Torah, of course. And the Mesillat Yesharim goes on to say, they should learn from the example of a Nazir, a Nazirite, to make prohibitions for anything that resembles a primary Torah prohibition. So primary Torah prohibition is fornication, adultery, and what can be a peripheral or a lead-in to that act is somebody who's found alone with a married man who finds himself alone with another married woman in a room with a closed door. And so you want to avoid being in situations like that, even to the point the rabbis also teach that if you're standing in a line and you've got an attractive woman standing right in front of you and an attractive woman standing right behind you, you should remove yourself from that line and stand where you're not standing between two attractive women. Because all these things can have the potential to accost you and scramble your mind. And that goes without saying. If you find yourself walking behind a woman, maybe in a shopping center or something like that, stop, let her go ahead, or shoot in front of the person, so you're not being caught in a compromising situation. It comes out that the Torah did in this mitzvah of a Nazir what should be done by the sages in all mitzvot. It comes out that the Torah did in this mitzvah of Nazir what should be done by the sages in all mitzvot. So again, we're talking about the laws of a Nazir being looked upon as a pervasive sets of laws that are applied to a lot of personal conduct that we might embark on. Why did the Torah make this example? In order to know that this is the will of Hashem and that we should add fences around the Torah. So it's not lawful for a Nazirite to walk through a vineyard, even though he goes, I'll never stop and drink some wine. I'm a pretty strong-willed person. I can walk straight through a vineyard. This is like somebody who maybe has a route that they travel home from work, and there is a billboard of a very immodest image. And every afternoon they drive past and it's a huge billboard, and they find their eyes drawn to it every single time. And they say, listen, nothing's going to happen if I just look at this immoral image. It may not be something to do with nudity. Maybe it's just a woman with some sort of facial expression, maybe doing some sort of suggestive hand gesture or something. A righteous person chooses to go home from their workplace via another route, even if that route means that it'll take them an extra 5 minutes. So you want to avoid any potential inroads of committing any type of sexual immoral offense. And so you go, no, I don't want to keep looking at that. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to become comfortable with looking at that immoral image. We shouldn't be satisfied by merely abstaining from doing the sins themselves, says Rabbi Avigdor Miller, but we have to build barriers in order to avoid even coming close to doing these things. The Mesillat Yesharim says, when the Torah makes something forbidden to us, we should learn that what is not said we should learn what is not said from what is said. So there's a lot of stuff that we can learn through deductive reasoning when we're reading from the Torah text itself. I hope I'm clear on that. What is not said by all other Torah prohibitions? We should learn from what is said in the case of a Nazir. So the next time you're reading the laws of the Nazirite, you're going, I'm never going to become a Nazirite. I mean, for a start, you have to have a functioning Beit HaMikdash, holy temple with a Sanhedrin, for somebody to be even eligible to take a Nazirite vow. Why am I reading this year after year in the Torah? I just go blank. I just switch off and think about something else as I'm reading it. Now that's going to change for you. You're going to go, okay, I'm going to read this and I'm going to learn it and I'm going to take on what it's teaching me, even though I'm never going to be a Nazirite. There's so many things to do with the Nazirite vow that we can use practically in a myriad of other areas. The Mesillat Yesharim goes on to say, to forbid anything that is close to the Torah prohibition. Therefore, hang on, let me just go back because that commentary there interjected a sentence. So I'm just going to read through the Mesillat Yesharim without the Rabbi Avigdor Miller's comment here and go back. When the Torah makes something forbidden to us, we should learn what is not said from what is said, to forbid anything that is close to the Torah prohibition. Therefore, in this manner, the sages forbade in the matter of immorality anything that belongs to the subject of immorality or is even close to it, whether it be with any faculty or any sense, meaning whether by an act, whether by looking, whether by speaking, whether by hearing such things, like hearing immoral things on television, and even thinking about them is also forbidden because it's all included in the plan of the Torah to make fences. So we have to be very careful, like so-called frum people that see themselves as being frum in the Messianic world, and they're more observant than the average Messianic. You'll see that they do spend quite a lot of time on Facebook. And I just can't see how spending a lot of time on Facebook, with the whole nature of Facebook being that a person scrolls down and can potentially see anything, because you can't control what people who have friend requested you, what their threshold of what they believe is appropriate or not. You don't have any control over that. So you're constantly putting yourself in jeopardy unless you're using that tool as something to maybe keep in contact with a sick relative who lives far away, or you're using it for kiruv purposes. So be very careful. The social media has killed a lot of people physically and metaphorically speaking, and it's going to probably kill away a lot more before it's finally removed. I think we'll leave it there. Let's keep these short and sweet. So let's just read that last section again. Oh, that's a big sentence. Therefore, in this manner, the sages forbade in a matter of immorality anything that belongs to the subject of immorality or is even close to it, whether it be with any faculty of any sense, meaning whether by an act, whether by looking, whether by speaking, or whether by hearing such things, like hearing immoral things on television, and even thinking about them is also forbidden because it is all included in the plan of the Torah to make fences. So making a barrier, setting a police guard, or a checkpoint at your senses, absolutely. Somebody who does that and is serious about doing that, that's somebody who's really serious about Hashem, really serious about the Torah, and really serious about really getting things done. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.